management now and beyond. We have come to the third part of our lecture, and this is going to be the last lecture before conclusion of this course. We are discussing the issues related to management and future. Globalization, as we have discussed, has brought in new issues for us, and we have to prepare for global competition and the effects of globalization in our own country, and this has become an important issue of management today. So, the future perspective of management relates to number of issues, and which include the issue of work ethics. In fact, all these we have discussed earlier in our course. Engineering ethics, this I am saying because I am specially addressing the engineering students at the moment, and organizational commitment. We have discussed that the issue of commitment is becoming much more important than ever before, because of the reason of because of the reason that the attrition rate is going up so much that organizations are really concerned about it. It really means a lot of financial investment as well in human resources. Yes. And empowerment of employees. We have also seen in our discussions that empowerment becomes extremely important, and gone are those days when we could have only the bureaucratic setup, or we can say that the managers becoming extremely autocratic. Now change has taken place because of the cultural change, and so empowerment becomes the need of the day. Flexibility, again we have discussed this when we were starting the course. We have seen that flexibility in all spheres of managing, may it be production system, may it be flexibility of mind. We have to understand that without flexibility in our management decisions, we cannot really go ahead and compete in today's time. Then comes innovation and creativity. Well, we have certain fixed set of rules, fixed set of say the designs of an organization, but we cannot ignore the innovation and creativity of people in organizations. Everyone has very rich mind and perhaps very many new ideas. So, organizations have to build some kind of a mechanism where they can really take advantage of creativity of people in organizations. This is going to be one of the best deals for any organization in today's time. Then we have also discussed about the relationships in our earlier discussions, and an important aspect is working relationship, which has to be positive. Well, the relationships could be of many types. Okay, the relationship with colleagues, with your superiors, with your juniors, perhaps relationship with the system. So many aspects are there. Your buyers are there. So the relationship with your customers. So positive working relationship becomes again extremely important, and this is very closely related to the aspect that we have discussed earlier, the autocratic leadership, where there is no room really for good communication, open communication. So the positive relationship becomes important. Change management, we have discussed that in our 2 lectures earlier, and we have seen that the world is changing, it's ever changing. So we can't stop, at least we can't change one thing, that's the change, we can't stop it. And that is why today's manager has to look at change management as one of the most important aspects for our future perspective. Then managing yourself. This is something again is becoming so important in the environment of today's competitive era, that you have to manage yourselves in order to really cope up with the competition. We have never given perhaps so much importance to that than is being given today, and in order to develop yourself, managing yourself, the personality development issues become extremely important. Quality, productivity and operations management become very important. And today I am also going to discuss with you the issue of quality, productivity and operations management. At this point, I would like you to share with me one of the valedictory lectures of Professor Premvrat on productivity, quality and related to operations management. Professor Premvrat has been a professor at IIT Delhi and director of IIT Roorkee, and currently he is also director of the Technological University of Roorkee, an expert in this area, and we had the opportunity of his views on productivity and quality and operations management in one of the international conferences that we had organized. And so I thought you could share his views along with us. So over to the excerpts from Professor Premvrat's speech, valedictory speech on quality and productivity. So that was an excellent analysis presented by Professor Premvrat on quality and productivity. Then we move on to the issue of recruitment and selection. We have seen that the human engineering approach is becoming an extremely important approach in today's time, where we are trying to match the individual to the job rather than the other way around, and also trying to select him and do the placement according to the perhaps the qualities of the person. This is the approach that we have to use also in our future successful organizations, because we know that people are different, people are valuable assets of the organization, and so we have to really put them in the right kind of a role which they can play. The issues that which have emerged earlier also are the issues of financial management, the project management, information and knowledge management, leading teams, and managing for results. When we are looking at managing for results, I would also like you to share with me one of the eminent persons, Dr. Vinay Bharatram's observations about managing. And here this was part of one of the valedictory speeches which he gave at IIT Delhi. And as you know, in fact, I don't need to introduce him, but let me just say a few words about Professor Dr. Bharatram. Vinay Bharatram, Dr. Vinay Bharatram, yes, I am talking about him, is chairman of the DCM group, and they are working in the sectors like textiles, engineering, real estate, information technology, and many more. In fact, many more sectors. The organization, and that's an old organization, and he is chairman of the DCM group. He has written a book, The Theory of Global Firm, and here he has analyzed most of these aspects of future management, looking at from the view from the view of an economist or financial from the financial perspective. And Professor Amartya Sen observed that the book is an imaginative book, and this is having beaming peer theory and the real world analysis. And so, we have to look into the theory of the global firm, which Dr. Vinay Bharatram has written. But for now, let us see what he is saying in terms of quality, productivity, management, and perhaps the future of management. Now, we have discussed about managing for results and the future perspective, and we heard Dr. Vinay Bharatram's observations, very valuable ideas, and I am sure all of you are going to be really benefited by these ideas. So, looking at the future and looking at the management in the near perspectives. There are number of other issues which might come up when we are looking at management now and beyond. One important issue is the issue of training and development for high performance. In fact, we have discussed about training for high performance earlier also. Here I would like to emphasize on another issue which is coming up in the recent years, that is the issue of multi-skilling of the workers. If we go in for over specialization, sometimes it may so happen that the machine is perhaps remaining idle because there is no operator, because one operator does not know how to operate the other machine. This is just one simple example I am giving you, but multi-skilling may mean many more things. That means one person who can do more than one job. So, that is becoming an important issue in the training and development, which as a future perspective managers could consider. Here again this model has been discussed earlier in one of the lectures, and once again I am going to show you this model just to say that an important aspect of the whole HRD activity is, one is the formal way we are developing the HRD issues, and the other aspect of that is that we create a culture, a work climate where people learn and there is an ecological succession taking place. This term ecological succession is coming from the literature of environment and ecology, and the idea of ecological succession is that when the climate is very volatile, when the climate is very volatile, then the change is faster. And when we look at the industrial scenario in our own country, we can see that at the moment we are just going ahead, and the world is looking forward to India in terms of a real developing a power. We are really making a place for ourselves in the world, in the eyes of the world. So, the ecological succession aspect, when we introduce here, then we find that the possibility of HRD becomes manifold, beneficial to the whole organization. So, the idea is that keeping in view the aspects of all other aspects which I have tried to list in this particular model. Say we are talking about ethics, we are talking about recruitment selection, we are talking about management of change, we are talking about empowerment, we are talking about psychological empowerment, all these. And the idea here is that if the organization has that climate, ecological succession will take place, and which will help us in achieving competitive advantage. We can manage change better, and we could be much more successful. Well, yes, this is the theory that I have developed, and I have written and presented in number of places, as I was mentioning that to you earlier. So, this theory of ecological succession for managing and for achieving we can say success in of our organizations is one thing that I would certainly like to say, and for which we do need investment in people. We are talking about future perspectives and what, as the management thinkers, one could do. This is one of the approaches that I am presenting. So, the investment in people that I was trying to talk to you about, and the organizations need to invest in people. And in fact, some of these points I have already discussed in some of the earlier lectures. And investment in people, that means the investment in HRD in a big way we need to invest. Also, the business environment is very important here. When we are talking about the business environment, like for example, in our country itself, the business environment is changing now. In the past 5 years only, we have seen a lot of change in the business environment itself. So, we need to change the business environment. Also, an important aspect of the future management is the reputation management. The issue, we have discussed the issue of values, ethics, corporate social responsibilities earlier in our course. And if we have the values and ethics, perhaps the way we are doing our business, our credibility increases, and that in turn is going to help the reputation of our company. So, we have, if we have to look at the future, we have to see that the reputation management is taken care of very carefully. Otherwise, many a times we have a lot of investment in our company, but the reputation, at the level of reputation, many a times see the quality control is not there. Okay, you find that there is a big name, but the product is not really up to the mark. Then the reputation is at stake. That is why we have to be extremely cautious about the reputation management of the organization, and for the future we have to look at this very seriously. And the models then which emerge as our final points are the commitment model, which I have already discussed. And for understanding commitment model, we can answer a few questions like what should we do, Is it commitment of the employees or the commitment of the organization? Whose commitment are we talking about? We have earlier in the earlier portions, we have generally talked about the commitment of employees, and every manager expects that employees must have high commitment. But what about the commitment of the organization? Perhaps many of us have never looked at that, and so when we are looking at the commitment model, it is inevitable for us to understand that in addition to employees' commitment, organizations' commitment towards employees is equally important. And so, if we have to look at the future world, we have to see that my organization is such that is also committed towards the betterment of my employees. So, organizational climate becomes the second aspect that we have to look at from future perspective, because when I was discussing the earlier model, I am just discussing yet another very close to that another model. That is the organizational climate where people are encouraged to improve their own and other people's performance. So, can we have an organizational climate of that kind? We have all to work together to do that. So, managers have great responsibility to see that the climate of the organization is developed in such a way that people come forward with ideas and they are given the opportunity of growth and development. Values, vision and mission of the organization, when it is committed to ensuring quality of opportunity of development to people. So, in fact, this observation flows from the earlier one. Yes, the commitment when we are talking about developing a climate. So, this one, the issue of values, vision and mission also flows from that. Only if we have a good value, good mission and vision and dream, we can have the best kind of organization. Then when people believe that contribution to the organization is recognized, they get involved and they get committed. So, organization's role is equally important in making people committed and involved, and organization is committed to supporting the development of its people. So, now we are talking about commitment of people and commitment of organization, and we are trying to say that the model of commitment has to take into consideration both employees and the organization. Then we can from commitment model I move on to talk about action and planning model. We have an organization and we have the issues like commitment, selection, recruitment, training and so on, but then action and planning become extremely important for managing any system. Action and planning, which sometimes we tend to ignore, and in this after this action and planning we have to also see that human asset accounting and the role of managers in supporting the development of people becomes important. Here human asset accounting is important. Human, that means human being having some worth. So, can you really account for that? We are all different, okay, and we all have different worth. Yes, so management has to take that into consideration. People understand how they contribute to achieving the organization's mission, aims and objective. Yes, and clear and well defined objectives of the organization, a plan with clear aims and objectives which are understood by everyone. So, organization might have plans and objectives, but everyone must understand these plans and objectives, and the development of people in the line with organization's aims and objectives, this is important. Otherwise, on the file, we may have certain plans and certain objectives which are not known to others in the organization, and that is why we need to really make that make that very practical, in the sense that everyone gets involved into that, even making of plan and also its application. Then we come to yet another model that I was discussing, is the evaluation and development model. We have already discussed about the HRD and investment in people, and here when we are looking at this model, organizational culture, this emphasizes on organizational culture, where people understand the impact of development of people and of performance of the organization, their teams and the individuals. So, all these as part of the organizational culture, and the performance management is there, where the development of people improves the performance of the organization, teams and individuals. So, as a result of this, the organization gets better and better at the competitive advantage through people. And here again, we are trying to summarize this whole idea on managing in terms of that unless we have investment, a big investment in people at the place of work in organizations, and unless we have a climate, a culture of work performance, we can't get the advantage of the ecological succession, which the theory that I have been discussing, which I have yes, I have been discussing and I have been talking about that investment in people and development of a work culture is extremely important, which will relate also to the HRD, the different kind of a HRD. Formally, we give them some trainings and some exposures, and also create a climate where there will be ecological succession. And we have seen in the past that in the countries where the work culture is extremely developed and matured, the work performance also is important. For example, when we are talking about different kinds of say the reward and punishment strategy, or the legal procedures, its implementation, or we are talking about the different kind of evaluation mechanism, the feedback mechanism. We have seen that if work culture is such, there is an ecological succession, and there is much better performance in the years to come. So, we can follow this aspect as the future perspective of management. So, when we are coming to the end of this discussion, let me once again say that when we are trying to manage an organization, we have to remember that an organization is a dynamic entity which has people, society, infrastructure, change. Okay. So, you understand the dynamic, we have discussed that dynamic society, the dynamic entity earlier in our discussions. So, change should be on lines of management of change which we have discussed, and to be flexible in nature. And the issue of profitability is important. We have discussed again that earlier in our course, but but the profitability, we do not have to consider that as just a slice of time, but it has to be seen on a continuous basis. Yes, and the profitability is not the sole criterion. We have number of other criterion which are taken into consideration, the various types of OD activities, management of change, performance appraisal systems, and the climate that has very open communication and so on. So, without effective management of change strategies, one cannot bring about organizations' profitability and sustainability, which I was just discussing now. And so, the HRD and training become extremely important, and there are certain strategic values of training and development which in a very brief terms I would like to give you some ideas about the strategic values as to why invest in people, why invest in HRD, and what implications those who have those things have. See, when we are talking about this, we aren't really saying that we don't need the other aspects of managing. We need all other aspects of managing, but above all, we have to see that because we get results through people, we have to invest in people. That's the idea I'm trying to share with you. So, in reality, most organizations adopt a mix and the competitive business strategies. And training and development activities are actually directed to meeting multiple objectives. One of the examples that I have given here is of the fast food industry, the multiple objectives of a business and of the social need and whatever. Okay, there are number of objectives that fast food industry perhaps has. So, I just had that in my mind, so I gave that. In India, that is an industry which is also developing very fast. The greatest advantage emphasized in training technologies which occurs in organizations that mostly highlight value on their human resources to sustain a competitive advantage. To achieve competitive advantage, training and development has a strategic value in terms of survival and growth of the organization. We have seen that the profitability in this slice of time is not important, but the survival and growth into this global scenario is important. So, training and development help us in the process of survival and growth. Successful organizational coping, then, that means if organization has to survive in today's global scenario, today's competitive world, then it will mean that we have to cope up with all these competitions and survive and grow. Yes. So, Sheen has put this term here, and he has said that successful organizational coping, this refers to the challenges which require good communication skills, flexibility, creativity, commitment and climate of support. So, these could be achieved, some of these aspects could be achieved through selection, recruitment, motivation, transactional analysis, open communication and realistic interpersonal relationships based on a realistic psychological contract. So, with this we come to the last lecture that I had with you on management studies, and now we will have a concluding session in which I will show you the bibliography and references which were used for these lectures. Okay.